Welcome to the Ballpark Digest Broadcaster Chat. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, rejoined once again by Mick Gillispie and by Kevin Reichard. Mick, let's start with you. How are things?
Hey, look, things are great. I can't believe it's September. I mean, just pinch me. I don't know how we got here, but I turned around and we're in September right now. I guess for me. It's like the smoky season would be over this weekend, Labor Day, right? So it's like kind of getting back to the world of college football. So for me, professionally, I've just fingers crossed that the SEC plays so I can go back to work, something I haven't done in a long time. But you know what? Here we are in September, watching a lot of Major League Baseball, and kind of into this like pennant race, like I haven't been since I was like in high school. So it's been, in a weird way, it's been a lot of fun.
Kevin Reichard, how are you?
I'm good. Watching sports, sort of winding down the summer, just like you guys. Although I have to remind myself that we'd be in the last days of the minor league season when energies are low and everyone's sort of already looking at the door, waiting to leave. So already looking ahead to next spring, quite honestly.
Before we get there, the PBA needs to be signed. Have you heard any developments?
MLB has made its initial proposal. I have a copy. Owners are actually more in favor of it than you would assume, as I'm making the rounds and doing a bunch of interviews. I'll have a story tomorrow in the newsletter. Nothing, and still the timeline has not changed. I mean, you're going to see talks continue through the end of the fall. You will see some sort of agreement probably announced Thanksgiving. That's the date I keep hearing, Thanksgiving, with the winter meetings in a scaled down form, no MLB participation, and basically meetings to review the changes for next year.
So some teams will enjoy eating their turkey. Other teams won't enjoy eating their turkey.
Yeah.
We'll watch the Detroit Lions try not to lose, etc.
Yeah. Who are they playing this year, by the way? I don't even know.
I'm a hardcore fan of my team, and I do not look at any other team's schedule. So whatever other teams do, that's their business, is basically my philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, all I care about is Detroit in the early afternoon, Dallas in the late afternoon. That's the key.
It's interesting because so September in a non-COVID year, baseball suddenly has to compete with football. So I've had broadcasts that get preempted on a Friday night because Friday night is high school football. And then in my area, I've got Michigan State. We understand with Mick, voice of the Tennessee Smokies, but his commitments to Alabama. Baseball does butt heads right up against football during the season, and yet September has always been, and I'm going to speak for the upper Midwest, a much better weather period for baseball than, let's say, April is, just to throw a month out there. Like a full month where we play from opening day onward. The International League, I don't know, usually has tons of snowouts and rainouts every year in April. But September is nice. Is there any way that a change or a shift in the scheduling could be in the PBA?
There's talk about one, but it has to do more with teams starting camp and then moving up to low A facilities in June 1st or whatever to take advantage of the weather. I don't think we'll see anything shifted back because there's not a single Florida or Texas team that wants to be playing when high school football starts. And as Mick knows, high school football in Florida starts, April 1st? It's really early. So once high school football comes along, no one wants to compete with it on the professional level.
Hey, trade deadline just happened. Mick, I know that you were really paying attention to baseball right now. How closely were you paying attention all the while leading up to the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it yesterday and I was interested in it, like just watching Clevenger go to the Padres. And I'm wondering, like, for San Diego, how willing are you to mortgage some of your top prospects and even some guys on the big league roster to compete? Because I got to tell you, this Padres team is pretty intriguing to me. And this season is not a normal season. You know, like 60 games is not 162. It just isn't. You know, like we're going to have someone win awards that would never win them if they had to go 5 months, whether they got hurt, whether someone figured them out and they weren't able to make adjustments, whatever. That what makes baseball crazy is that there's so many games. Well, this year there's not, you know, there's 60. And I was curious to see, because I feel like the Padres farm system is as stacked as any farm system I can remember. You know, how many guys are you willing to give away? And so, you know, they gave some top 10 prospects away, some guys off the big league roster. You know, obviously I'm paying attention to the Cubs. You know, some of the trades that the Cubs have made over the years, you know, they've given away players that are different, are next level guys, Gleyber Torres and Eloy Jimenez. And, you know, you look at, they just played the Tigers. There's a couple prospects on there, Paredes and Jimenez, you know, who were guys that were with the Cubs and now they're in the big leagues every day, you know, or Candelario, I should say. But, you know, the Zach Short got traded. I was surprised that they traded away shortstop depth because that's what he plays. But, you know, if you feel like, you know, Cameron Maybin's a difference maker, I don't know. But every time you turn around, it's like there's, you know, an opportunity for a team to try to make a move here. The Yankees did 0, which was kind of surprising to me looking at the way that their season's gone here lately. They're 4.5 games back at Tampa Bay. I'm looking at it right now, which is just shocking to me, right? Because I expected them and the Dodgers to win like 40 games of 60, right? I was shocked that Cleveland would trade a starting pitcher away when they're like in first place. I mean, not anymore, but they were yesterday, right? So the trade deadline was interesting. This whole season's so different because there's this many games to play instead of this many, right? And I felt like the Padres told me that we're all in. And I like that. I think that's fun.
I'll go even a bit deeper on the Padres trades. When the Cubs traded for Jose Quintana, they gave away, I would argue, their top pitching prospect at the time, Dylan Cease. And they gave away, I would argue, their top position player prospect at the time in Eloy Jimenez. The Padres' top prospects, their top position player prospect is C.J. Abrams. Luis Camposano, the catcher, is really good. And their top pitching prospects are Mackenzie Gore or Luis Patino. You can take your pick. And they didn't have to touch those guys in making all these trades. That was so impressive to me, that they had the depth, that they could keep on going. Hey, you take 5. Like they were dealing cards out. You want 2? All right, let's deal you 2. You want 3?
Right.
3. And they're not touching the ace in the hole.
Right. I'm going to just say this, like, you know, like Theo Epstein, I agree, like one of the best ever. He's a Hall of Famer and all that. But looking back at some of these trades, it's like, you know, I wasn't in the room when they were making these deals, but you don't see Atlanta trading away their best prospects. And you look at the problems that the Cubs have right now, and a lot of it is because the guys that would have just plugged into those spots are on other teams. You know, could you have gotten the Chapman deal done with Ian Happ or with Eloy Jimenez and kept Gleyber Torres, or just Ian Happ? Although I got to say this, Ian Happ has his trouble on defense and sometimes base running, but he's the best hitter on the team right now. And so he's been the best hitter on the team all year. He's been the most motivated. So I'm really happy for him. But what I'm saying is, you know, like if you're making that kind of deal, you trade the Quintana trade's going to be one because Chicago, the way that it is there, I mean, we're always going to go back and kind of keep looking at it. You gave away a pitcher that's better than the pitcher that you got, right? And then you traded a position player who might win the MVP this year. I don't know if he's going to, but I'll tell you what, this kid's in the conversation. And he's an all-around good player. It's not just that he hits home runs. You know, sometimes you look at offensive stats and you're like, wow, what? Like the old Texas Rangers. You look at the old Texas Rangers with like Canseco and Gonzalez. Yeah, these guys hit all these home runs.
Ruben Sierra.
Nobody catches. Yeah, Ruben Sierra. You know what I'm talking about. Nobody runs the bases. There's no pitching. There's no defense. They just score a bunch of runs, you know, but I don't think he's like that. I think he's a really, really good player, you know, and like I watch him play and I'm like, geez, I mean, how do you just let this guy go? Maybe you're the Yankees and you say, I know we're scuffling. We got some guys hurt right now, but we got better than what we're going to get back. And when these guys get healthy or when they're ready to be in the big leagues, we're going to be better off anyway. You know, that's it. There's a sense of urgency that I've always appreciated about the Cubs. Like I love the fact that Theo's always got this sense of urgency about trying to win. And that's what makes his job the toughest job in baseball. You know, it's like trying to figure out if this our shot or is that our shot down the road. So like, I'm glad that we're broadcasting and we don't have to make those tough decisions. But when you see the talent that the Cubs kind of developed and gave to other teams and trades, there's a lot of guys that are going to be around and be great players for a long time. And you're talking about the Padres, you know, they get the best pitcher, arguably the best pitcher that was traded yesterday, and they didn't give up any of their top prospects. So I respect that.
Kevin, you usually yield to us when it comes to matters of baseball. But now that we enter into AL Central talk, as we say, oh, look at the White Sox. Oh, they're passing Cleveland. What is Cleveland doing trading Clevenger? This brings us into your wheelhouse with the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, the Twins kind of suck right now. So, lost 6 in a row, got swept by Gardy in Detroit. You know, the Twins' philosophy right now, and they've been very open about it, is that they feel that trade deadline was meaningless for them because they're getting people off the injured reserve list. And by and large, that's true. But then again, when you're getting a 40-year-old Rich Hill off the injured list, and he's not necessarily
ageless,
setting the world on fire.
Former Lansing Lugnut great.
There you go. You gotta wonder exactly what's going on. And I watched some of last night's game. They lost when Max Kepler, who usually is pretty sure-handed, made a big error to throw the game, basically. I mean, not throw, but lose the game. So, I guess we're at the point now where I look at all these moves in the prism of next year. And why is San Diego so aggressive? Win this year, sell tickets next year. San Diego's a very challenging market for baseball. People love Petco Park. People love the experience. But the team kind of, I think it's the San Diego lifestyle that kind of underperform. And so increasing that attendance by 10,000 a game, that's a lot of work. And that's one of the few markets, I think, where you really got to win and be more than just competitive to sell that extra 10,000 tickets. So I just view this as being investments in next year. And it's nice that they have the farm system where they can trade away good prospects, not their best, you're absolutely right, and set up for next year.
Okay, can I just say that I love this philosophically because there are no fans, because nobody can be there. So you've got everybody watching who's a fan. And if your team is good, you're adding to it. I saw the ratings come out, and there are huge ratings increases across baseball, especially with women, ages 18 to 35. There's an enormous increase. And there's an enormous increase just in young people in general watching baseball and ratings right now. And then I saw the specific cities where more and more young people were watching, where the ratings were doubling. And San Diego is one of them. So instead of trying to sell tickets through having a big off season and free agent acquisitions, why not sell tickets by just being good this year and say, hey, we're making you a fan. Get to know these players. The Padres went back to their brown and yellows and have really leaned in. So good for them and going for it. And that would make for an electric stadium next year.
Yeah. This demographic change that MLB wants. MLB would love to shed the 60-year-old guys, many of whom sent me hate email yesterday when we sent out our spring training frequently asked questions newsletter. And so I'm getting this barrage of old man pissed off, how dare they support black people email. And so screw them. Old people go away. Let the young people, like Jesse say, love the game. They're the future. But this is the shift MLB has wanted for years, and I'm really happy to see it happening.
Mick, what were you about to say?
No, I'm like Kevin. I'm in the all-inclusive camp over here. You know, being on radio. You know, it's like I want everybody in here. I'm trying to find a way not to piss anybody off. It's sometimes tough, you know. And the thing about it is, like, when you're on radio or TV, you know, we all have our own political beliefs, you know, and it's like being able to kind of balance that with the people that you're friends with and that don't necessarily agree with you, you know. But you know what I was going to say is that I'm excited about the kind of the way that this season has turned out, because I was really disappointed in the way that the players and the owners got together and were fighting over money, you know. And now it's turned into like, hey, we're talking about baseball here, you know. When I watch the games, I don't want to be political, you know. I don't want to watch politics. I want to watch guys going out there and giving their all. I love Fernando Tatis Jr. And I mean, we talked about him on the show a couple of weeks ago, but I've become like the guy, like, hey, look, they're down 8 and he's swinging for a home run and he's doing it. You know what? I liked playing with that guy. I like watching that guy. I don't want to play. I don't want to watch a game where it's like, okay, well, we're up 6. So I'm not going to try anymore.
Or
I like watching the guys that want to win.
You're up 6 and you're the fan sitting at home on your couch, and Fernando Tatis is coming up to the plate and you're like, hey, he's not going to try this at bat.
Right. I don't believe in that. And I mean, like, even more since we talked about it on the show, like I'm even more convinced. Pitching isn't even that good anymore where you can guarantee that you're going to hold a 6 or an 8-run lead. You know, like if you hit a ball in the gap and they don't want to run after it, you should take second base. And if you can, you should do it. And you should always try to go after you should always be aggressive in the game. I agree with that. And I love the fact that he's challenging baseball's unwritten rules, you know, and making the game exciting, you know. When I look around the league and I see the teams, and I've spend a lot of time paying attention to the Cubs, you know, but I try to watch and see the Dodgers because I think they're the best team in baseball, and the Yankees, and you know, the Padres. Obviously, like they're you can't not pay attention to them, and the Twins and all the home runs, and now the White Sox are back. Yeah, right. Like it's been you know, with everything going on in the world right now, I just want to put the games on and escape from it and enjoy them. And I've been able to do that this year. You know, like the Cubs, they've been like this. But I mean, look, Saturday night, the game 2 of the Cubs doubleheader was, if I was playing, I would have been furious. You know, they throw at Rizzo, you know, but all these guys get kicked out of the game. You're paying this guy $16 million, Craig Kimbrell, $16 million a year as a relief pitcher. I mean, you know, a closer, but a relief pitcher. And he can't come in and throw strikes. It's not that they hit him. He walked 3 guys and threw a wild pitch to lose the game. Like, after everything emotional that went on. And I'm like, you know what? If I want to see how you guys respond to that, because I know how that goes. You're going back to the hotel, you're pissed off, and you're thinking all night, like, why can't this guy throw strikes? He's getting paid more than me. And we just gave them the game. And then for them to come back and every outfielder to hit 2 home runs was, for the first time in baseball history, by the way, pretty awesome.
What that makes me think about is Trevor Rosenthal. Craig Kimbrell was utterly unhittable some years back. Yeah. Trevor Rosenthal was utterly unhittable, went to terribly ineffective, found a home. Suddenly this year with the Royals, he's right back to being unhittable, and he's sought after in a trade, so the Padres trade for him. And Mick, you've seen this with baseball players on your teams. There's such a fine line between not just a guy being good and being not good, but a guy being utterly dominant and a guy being the worst player on the field. It is so fine.
No, I think that with Kimbrell, you know, like you have one pitching coach, and I think one day they'll have multiple pitching coaches, almost like caddies in golf, right? I don't know that they shouldn't be doing that right now, but Tommy Hotovey's their pitching coach. You know, he's kind of you know, as far as big league game experience, he didn't have a lot of that, but you know, he's a smart guy, understands the computers and all that. Chris Bosio is the old pitching coach, right? He was there when they won the World Series. I've never been a big Chris Bosio fan as a person. You know, I don't think he's a good guy, and that's why he's not in baseball anymore. We know the whole story there. But I've noticed that long time ago. But at the same time, when it comes to doing his job, he's as good as it comes. He just is. And you wonder like what he might see, or someone that's pitched a ton of games in the big leagues that might not be the kind of guy you're inviting out for dinner after the game. That's not the kind of person you really want to spend a lot of time with, but there's something about this guy. He's going to tell you exactly what's going on in life that may help Craig Kimbrell. I mean, I'm seeing him throw him 99 miles an hour, so it's not like he's, you know, he used to throw 101. Like, I don't think that's that much of a difference. There's a lot of movement on his pitches. Is the slider as devastating as it used to be? No, but it still has a ton of movement on it. You know, like I'm watching this and I'm in my head, I'm saying, if the Cubs don't get this figured out with him, someone will. You know, and I know that, but they've invested. No one was going to want to pay $16 million for him right now. But I think, like, just like you said with Rosenthal, it's like a golf game. You know, like you're in there and you're hitting balls and you're you know, all of a sudden you're slicing everywhere. One little move, I feel like he could be right back in to you know, what he was doing before. So we'll see what happens.
Kevin, did you have something to add? Well, I Mick's absolutely right with Kimbrell, and I just think that this is such an indication that we shouldn't take performance this season very seriously when planning the future. You know, it could be a case where Kimbrell's one of those guys that needs the crowd, needs a routine. Everyone's got a different routine now. Everyone's got different travel situations. Everyone's got different home situations. And so a lot of guys are being thrown into a brand new world. Kimbrell's a good Huntsville Southern guy.
I know.
You know, he's very Southern. And
you say Huntsville, I say Rocket City.
Yeah,
Rocket City, whatever you call it, right?
Yeah,
so somewhere pretty close to where I'm at.
Madison, Alabama is truly the Rocket City, but we won't go there. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what the Cubs do with him next year. You know, will they bring him back, or will someone else make a grab for him? That's why everyone's always willing to take a chance on someone like a Kimbrell or a Rosenthal or someone who's had success in the past. They'll get one more stop. You know, look at Mike Minor. Great last year, terrible this year. He'll get a big contract.
Well, I'll add to that. Okay, so Mick gives you the perspective from the Cubs. I'll give you a Blue Jays perspective, working for a Blue Jays affiliate. They traded for Robbie Ray, who has not been very good this year, but he's had success in the past. They traded for Ross Stripling. Hasn't been good this year for the Dodgers. Has given up a ton of home runs, but the same thing. So it basically is whatever switch got flipped, can we figure it out and straighten this guy back out again?
And every team thinks they can do that. You know, they think that their analytics, their slow-mo cameras, their metrics will help someone who may not have worked in that kind of system do better.
You say the metrics, and I will add the psychologists.
Yes.
Because the team will have the analytics person will say you're doing this, but then they'll also sit down. The mental health people will sit down and say, let's talk things out. What's going on? So all those different facets of the game are now being paid attention to.
And especially with the Blue Jays, who invested in every high-tech gadget possible when renovating the Engelbert training complex in Dunedin.
Hey, they're owned by a communications company.
Exactly. It's supposed to be just dazzling in terms of the technology they have there, which, you know, no team will show the likes of me or you or you know, the three of us. They post guards in those areas now in the training complexes. So everyone thinks that they can turn someone around with technology and brain work. So some teams are doing it, some aren't. But that's a big thing when looking at free agency in this offseason. That's going to be a big sales pitch, because I think we're going to see a lot of fascinating free agency work out there.
I'll switch tacks. Mick, you had talked about keeping everything on the field and talking to everybody. I'll talk about something off the field affecting, not precisely on the field, but. So Chadwick Boseman recently passed away. The Lansing Lugnuts are hosting pop-up movie nights at the ballpark. And we had scheduled in advance, hey, we're going to show 42. It's going to be the day after Jackie Robinson Day as observed by Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball observing it on August the 28th, a Friday, because August 28th, 1945, 75 years ago, that was Jackie Robinson meeting in Branch Rickey's office to first discuss matters. And so the very next day, the Saturday, August 29th, we've got it scheduled, hey, free tickets, contact us ahead of time to reserve your spot, and we're going to show 42. And Chadwick Boseman dying and his death getting announced that night, Friday, August 28th on Jackie Robinson Day, certainly changed the whole experience of showing the movie to everybody.
Yeah, how terrible too. I mean, it's sad. I mean, he was a great actor. I thought he did a great, it was wonderful. 42 was a wonderful movie. I love the fact that it had the Chattanooga Ballpark Ingle Stadium in there, the old school park, and Rickwood Field. I played there where they, used it as part of the movie. And then, I'm a big superheroes guy, he's Black Panther. I mean, he's just a great actor. But how ironic is it that he would pass away on, everybody's wearing 42s in the big leagues. And he's, in the movies anyway, he's Jackie Robinson. So, I can imagine that would have been kind of a good night to get out there and just reminisce about why we loved him so much as an actor, and we loved those movies. And it's funny because other people that didn't like those two movies will say, "Well, what about this one or what about that one? He did this. He was great in this." 42 years old. It seems awful young to die. I actually, honestly, about 3 weeks ago, one of my best buddies died in a boating accident at 42. And it's like, you're just going, man, 42, like, I just can't even believe this. Like, it's just hard to wrap your head around it. But what I will tell you is that you just don't know it's just like a baseball game. You don't know what run in the game is going to win it. Like, you may have a 10-run lead and they score 9, and then that's you win by a run. Like, you got to keep scoring. Or you only score 7 and they score 8 and you lose. Life's that way, in the aspect that you just don't know how many years you have. You don't know how many days you have. You don't know how many breaths you're going to get. You just go out there and try to make the best and make the most out of every day that you have. And that's kind of something I learned from my dad, and I think about that every day. Treat people the way you want to be treat it yourself. Try to do nice things for other people. Try to help other people if you can, and know that we don't live forever. But for that kid at 42 years old to die, like, he's made the most out of his years, and he's going to be missed. And I think 42 is one of the best baseball movies that's been out in a long, long time too.
Something that I really appreciate about it is when I get tired during a baseball season, when the days all start running together and the weather gets hot and it's another third inning and a team is leading by 7 and the pitcher's not throwing the baseball, that's when I start going, baseball, come on, give me something. What I like is the moments in 42 where the pitcher's looking in for the sign, whether Jackie's at the plate or Jackie's on the bases. And those moments between the pitches matter, because there's a runner on who could make something happen, or there's a batter up there who could make something happen. And the pitcher throws wide or up and in, and now it's 2 balls and no strikes. It matters. My favorite baseball games, and usually this is the playoffs for me all the time, I can't look away, even when it's the second inning and it's scoreless. I can't look away from a pitch. I can't look away from the pitcher holding the baseball, because I don't want to miss something that is going to matter.
Well, I mean, it happens all the time too. I mean, like, there's so many times where I'm working with young broadcasters and they have no idea what just happened. They missed it. They're too busy looking for their next stat. They're too busy trying to find that next tidbit. And in between innings or after the game, as the crusty vet, I'll say, hey, man, the biggest play in the game happened when you were looking for you had another story that you wanted to tell. But at the end of the day, when we're on air doing radio broadcasts for baseball, the game's the most important thing. And being able to look down there and know that guy's being thrown at right now. Or, this is coming out of the dugout. Or Christian Yelich jogged off the field. I was at his last minor league game, He's going to the big leagues. But you were trying to figure out, it was your inning, and you were trying to figure out the next great stat to give somebody. You missed the biggest part of the whole game. Those are the things that I don't know. I guess because maybe I played, maybe I've been around it a long time. I feel like I do a pretty good job of feeling the moment and being able to be in the moment where I can explain to people at home. And then I see youngsters, and it's like trying to teach them how to get to that same point, where they kind of know what's going on. That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. It's
yeah.
Everything going on that field. It's not just the crack of the bat. Baseball's so much more than the crack of the bat.
Yeah. And let me say this too, like, it's not like this was something that I inherited like some natural ability. I mean, like I did play and I did get up, I played and umpired and coached at different levels, but not at any level that's significant. But I worked with Larry Ward. Larry Ward, long time broadcaster for Chattanooga. And you know that because you remember when I worked with Larry. He used to come into the booth when we played the Biscuits. And Larry taught me, and I can remember like some guy hits his first home run and Larry's like, waiting for the guys to steal the baseball and pretend they threw it into the stands instead of keeping it for him, or they hit their first home run and the guy gets into the dugout and no one gives him a high five. And I'm talking about this and I'm talking about that. And Larry's like, you're missing it, son, and then it's like, okay. Or getting that game-winning broadcast walk-off call. And instead of talking over the moment, Larry reached over one time and turned my mic off. Now I'm listening to the call. I'm like, you know what? That's a pretty damn good call right there. What people at home don't know is I said a lot more than what just came across, because Larry shut me off. That's the part of this job. Like I see guys that get to take what we call the fast pass to the big leagues. Or maybe they just get there for whatever reason and they're doing a couple innings a night or one inning a night, whatever. And you hear them and they make mistakes constantly. And it's not that they're bad broadcasters. It's just that this is a really difficult job. If you want to be great at it, if you want people at home to feel the game, if you want to send that vibe and get it back, where people feel like they're sitting there with you watching the game, you can't just go from some job where you're doing sports talk and doing play-by-play in baseball and think you're going to be good at it. It just doesn't happen like that. You got to spend the time with the crusty veteran like Larry Ward, where he's turning your mic off on you. Or I can remember Joe Davis being in the Southern League and sending me his tapes, and I'm listening, and I'm like, well, Joe, you missed. And Joe is you talk about way ahead of his time. He was way ahead of his time when he was in Montgomery. He just is. And he would send you your tapes and his tapes, and he wants you to tell him, and it'd be like, look, dude, you missed the whole thing. Well, my call sounded good. Yeah, but you missed the whole point. And you know what? You told him one time and he figured it out. He got it. And that's why he's in the big leagues. And if I'm up and I throw him on, he sounds great. Because you have to make the mistake to be able to get better at this. I can tell right away, and I do this now because I'm not working, unfortunately. I can listen to a lot of the broadcasters in the big leagues, and I'm not overly impressed. I'll be honest with you. Like, there's not many that pull you in. There's not a lot of Ken Koraks out there or John Millers. A lot of them, you're like, it just is kind of below average. But it used to not be like that. When I was a kid, it seemed like every city had Ernie Harwell and Vin and Chuck Thompson and what's the guy in Cleveland, He's still there. He's really good.
Tom
He's pretty Tom Hamilton. He's really loud. He's great. Enthusiastic. But not every city has those guys anymore. Now you're going, okay, somehow you got this job. You're probably like related to the person that makes the hiring call or something. You know what I'm talking about. You're a legacy, and it's hard to listen to it. But I feel like when I listen to Joe Davis of the young guys, I think he's really good. I think Wayne Randazzo, I mean, not that I'm good friends with him, but I think Wayne's great. But I also remember Wayne grinding it out down here and learning from, Howie in the big leagues, and getting better every day. So it's just, what I'm saying is that if this sport is different to call than any other sport out there, because there are so many things going on that are outside of the action of the game. Period.
Kevin?
I'm with Mick. There are some really great broadcasters, and we're seeing this year, because we're all paying attention now, that there's also some guys kind of calling it in. I would like to see more of like the Melanie Newmans of the world rise up, because I think she's great. I've listened to a couple Oriole games that she's broadcasted, and I thought she was great. And I'm not a Susie Waldman fan necessarily, but she's distinctive. You got to give her that. And she's very New York.
Grew up a Red Sox fan. Did you know?
Yes, which is the irony. If you look at her bio, which has nothing to do with baseball, she's actually acquitted herself pretty well as a major league broadcaster. So I think that's a trend we're going to see coming up. Will we see, these 40-year broadcasters? Maybe not. We see them for a while and they hop around a little bit more. They go national. They don't stick with the team very long. I used to love Kevin Harlan as a Timberwolves broadcaster. Now he's actually sounds a lot different when he's national, because he's more frenetic. With the Timberwolves, he and Kevin McHale. He
wasn't frenetic back then. He wasn't. Because I know him.
Now he's 11 on a scale of 10. Back then he was like a 7. Because A, the Timberwolves sucked, and B, he was much more interested in just chatting with Kevin McHale and about what's going on, knowing the Timberwolves sucked. So totally different style these days than what he exhibited with the Timberwolves and even with the NFL early on. So it's such a varied bag right now. I would love to see, and I think, Mick, you probably would agree with this, I would love to see multicasts where you have a MLB broadcast and then you have a national Twins broadcast or a national White Sox broadcast and say, go be your best Hawk Harrelson you can be. And give us 5 or 6 different views. I mean, that's what ESPN did during the bowl season. And I would, no one's done that yet. And I would love to see it. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. We're really still in a transitional phase of broadcasting. Sinclair controls a lot of the RSNs. Now AT&T is looking to sell, again, its RSNs to Sinclair. And I don't know whether Sinclair is the guts or the imagination or the money to really do these fun things.
Yeah, look, I kind of work for Sinclair, with Marquee. I would love to have multiple broadcasts, because I would love to do more of like a talk show, gambling type of broadcast where we're doing some play-by-play, but we're kind of goofing off and doing other stuff too that might, appeal to people that really don't want like the conventional play-by-play. I can do both, but it would be fun to kind of do something different like that. And I feel like people would watch it, because gambling's becoming really big part of the sports industry. And it would be fun to kind of tie that into the game. And I got to say this, like the NFL, I've talked to people and I'm like, well, I hate the NFL. And I'm like, but we're doing fantasy football. Well, I watch every game because I love fantasy football. I just don't really like the NFL. And down here, because everybody's college football fans. And I'm like, well, it's like, all right, well, okay, Like, I don't really like it, but I'm going to watch because of fantasy football. And I feel like gambling's kind of that same thing. You know, like there's casinos all over the place now. You can go in Illinois or, Mississippi or Alabama, wherever you're at. I'm sure Michigan, and I'm sure in Wisconsin, there's somewhere you can go and bet on games. And if not, then it'll be there soon.
Yeah, there's only 14 states with legalized sports betting as of right now.
Okay. Up from one.
Yeah, exactly. It's so trend. And I hate to say it, but take one guess as to what media company right now is the best position to integrate the betting with some irreverent line of commentary for live broadcasts.
Probably Fox, I would say, right? No?
Barstool.
Hey, Barstool, look, I'm telling you, I don't ever really watch their stuff a lot, but my friends love it.
Yeah, they get a lot of loyalty. I don't watch it because I'm so old. I'm not really in their target demo. But as they're owned by a betting company, that's the next natural progression. Fox is also putting a bet on betting. That's true. But I think Barstool, I'd be watching them in the next 6 months.
Say that Fox is betting on betting, huh?
Yeah, they have the integration. Yeah.
I'll tell you what kind of broadcast that I want as a viewer. Something that I appreciate about Tony Romo when he's on color commentary is I feel smarter because before a play happens, he says, here's what a team wants to do.
Yeah.
And then the play happens and they try to do that. And then he assesses how well they did at that. Here's what they're trying to do on offense. Here's what the defense has to do. Play, okay. Here's why they executed it well. Here's why they didn't. Here's what the defense needs to do. All I want to do is watch a game and feel smarter. Back in the day when Billy Packer had his fastball with men's college basketball, the number one thing he would focus on is how does this team want to score? Which, if you just separate basketball into a series of offensive possessions, my offense against your defense, shot clock up there, how do we want to score this possession? And he would say, here's what they want to do. Here's option A, here's option B. They want to go inside to this person. If that's shut down, they're going to go to this person who's going to drive and try to create something. And I want that for every sport. Like, it's good for me to know, okay, this pitcher's on the mound. His out pitch is a slider. If he gets to 2 strikes, it's the slider. So that's all I need from a broadcast crew is this hitter's really good at hitting high fastballs. This pitcher's really good at this. This team is really good at whatever it is. Show me this strength. Show me this strength. Tell me what they want to do in advance. I'll watch it and then break down what I just saw, and then I'll be perfectly happy. And tell me some fun stories.
Right. And he's going to make a lot of money. He's already made a lot of money. He's going to make a lot more money. But what surprised me, I mean, as you rise through this business, is that the executive producers don't know better about talent. You would think that, like, they're going to be able to look and go, okay, Tony Romo is good and this guy's not. And the reason I say that is if you look through a lot of the, like ESPN, how many bad play-by-play teams can you put on the air anymore? Like how many, you wonder why your ratings stink. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to put A-Rod on this game. He's not good. Like, well, but he may have been a great player, but he's not good. Well, you say like Tony Romo. Team,
that's separating the play-by-play guy from the color person.
Well, so, but it's all one group, though. You know what I'm saying? The play-by-play. All right, so you're right. But in TV, the color person is the star of the broadcast, right? And when it was John Miller and Joe Morgan, it was excellent, right? We liked it. People didn't always like Joe Morgan.
FireJoeMorgan.com.
But I don't care. He was good. And because he wasn't afraid to say something. I didn't agree with him all the time. He's dead wrong on Rhino. Rhino's a Hall of Famer. He's a great player. But you know what? I appreciate his opinion. Go on there and give an opinion. I can't remember the last time I turned on Sunday Night Baseball. And when I turned it on, and last year was awful, and this year's bad. Like that's what all the text I get from everybody is how bad this is. And he's still on there. This is a guy that almost got kicked out of baseball, and somehow he's the face of baseball too, which is just absolutely mind-boggling to me that an executive producer decided that that's the guy that they want to be the face of their broadcast. It's ridiculous. But then again, like what they're doing is like, well, we got to do this. We got to do this. They're checking boxes. They're not thinking about like finding the Tony Romo, the guy that you ask anybody that watches football, when Tony Romo's doing a game, he's great. Right? And I think there's other guys out there that would be great in baseball. It's just that because A-Rod's dating J-Lo, that's who we're going to put on the air because people might talk about him.
But they're not.
We might get a little, but they stink. You know, they stink. The team last year was awful. You know, and I don't know how it is this year because I don't watch unless the Cubs are playing. But I'm speaking for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there that are going, dude, I'm with you so much right now. I'm just the one on here saying it.
It just doesn't add anything. They don't add anything to my enjoyment of the broadcast.
No. And I mean, like, this is a guy that almost got kicked out of the game for cheating. Like, you know, and I mean, look, when Pete Rose was on there, like, I get it. Like, but I also feel like Pete Rose paid a very steep price for his stuff. And I also feel like Pete Rose is different because when I would watch Pete Rose on there, he was damn good. He said things that were exactly right. He was on the money with his analysis, you know, and knowing Pete, like when you're with him in person and you talk to him, like you realize like Pete is his own worst enemy because he would have been a Hall of Fame manager too. That's the crazy thing. There's not a person that not only was he a great baseball player, but that guy knows baseball like Einstein knew physics.
I think that's a really fun comparison between Rose and Rodriguez because both of them absolutely talented in the ways of baseball. Fantastic baseball players. Very smart. Both of them really smart. Both of them, the moral compass is not pointing north. So...
Yeah. But the argument is that either one of them, sorry, Kevin, and I'm going to keep this quick, that either one of them shouldn't be the people that you're watching on TV representing the game.
Yeah, you would want somebody.
That's the argument.
Compass points north. You want somebody you can like put forward as the face of the game. You want as the face of the game. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see a shakeup of the Sunday night broadcasts again. ESPN's got to really shake things up. I mean, they're doing it with football finally, with Monday night, going very conservative with Steve Levy and that crew. But baseball needs another Kurt Gowdy, or it needs a Vin, it needs a national leader to be in that booth for the big important games. Even a Jack Buck, you know, and the people there right now really don't fill that role.
I think they've done that themselves. And I think one of the ways that they've done that to themselves is by de-emphasizing the game, de-emphasizing the play-by-play, saying we need to have guests, we need to have interviews because we don't trust the people themselves. And it's similar to, let's say, the news anchor at the desk, who you go, I trust this person to deliver my news. It was the same way with the broadcaster. But when you go, you know what, I'd rather have pundits, I'd rather have this person or this person or this person, the more people you have or the more you jam things up, the more you're just pulling everything away from the main person that you would like to center.
Right. And I was going to say this, like when it comes to like that same point you're making right now is that, you know, you'll watch broadcasts and they're jamming the sideline person in way too much. And it's like, look, if there's a lot going on and they have like some significant stuff to say, it's great to have them. But when you're like throwing these evergreen stories in all the time, like where it's just overkill. Like, I get it. You're paying her to be here or you're paying him to be here most of the time, her, you know, and it's like, she's got to be in the game. No, that job is for when there's something going on, bring her in, or she's got something really funny down there. She's met these people that are like interesting. And I just feel like if you're going to be a great producer and you're like putting this broadcast on, you know, at a national or like a local level, and you have that person, you know, make sure it's something significant. Because to me, it's like I'm watching the game and I'm like, this is, I mean, I don't need this right now. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of overkill in that area. But I will say this, there are some really excellent sideline clubhouse type reporters, you know, and that's like mostly female, some guys that when they get on there, you're like, okay, yeah, like I needed that. Like I wanted to know that. Like that's really interesting, or that's a great fact. Or, you know, I can remember doing a marquee game and Taylor's talking with Chris Bryant's dad, and it's like he's kind of talking about the music that he plays, and I'm like, that's a really fun interview. You know, that was good. So it's the significance of like, you're throwing this out there. Like, is this something that you think that we're really interested in hearing, or are you just doing this because you just have somebody there and you feel like you got to get them in, you know? I'm just curious to know like how they figure it out. Cause a lot of times it feels like it's forced.
Yeah, I come back to, are you enhancing the way that I'm taking in the game? Is this better than if I was just sitting there on the third base stands and watching?
Right.
So am I learning something? And especially if there's news, if you can break in and say right now, look, they're warming up the second string quarterback, or the coach just went back and told this guy to get ready, they're considering yanking him, or this guy just came over to the bench and we've got a serious injury that we're watching right now. That's something that I might not have known if I'm sitting wherever I am in the stands. I like when you can bring some new knowledge to me.
Yeah, that's why I think Michelle Tafoya or even an Aaron Andrews actually are very good at that. They don't break in a whole lot, but when they do, it's meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
I've got
bring out the book.
Did you know it was time? Okay.
I knew it was time.
So, baseball thesaurus term, and I'm going to widen this out. Wanted to talk about, in the time that we have left, parts of a baseball bat. So just work our way up, right? So you've got the knob. Some guys actually like their bats without knobs down at the very bottom. There are the different kinds of bats that, the axe bat, that the knob comes out on one side but not on the other side. And that way you protect that area right there on the palm. And then you've got the handle right on up. You've got the barrel, the sweet spot, the label. So just thinking about all those different parts that make up a baseball bat.
Have either of you sort of taken a look at old style bats and how they were tapered? I mean, you go to Louisville Slugger Museum, they let you do that. And I would highly recommend a trip there if you haven't been, because you see how the bats evolved over time, which is utterly fascinating.
Yep. If you go to the Babe Ruth Museum near Camden Yards, you know, over by where Babe Ruth's dad's bar was, you know, before he was sent off because they got rid of him because he was such a bad kid. And it's, you know what I'm talking about. They have one of Babe's like first bats, and it looks like a piece of wood. Like it just looks like just like a stick or something. Like the handle's not really even rounded. It's kind of square, you know. Like I remember seeing it's really heavy.
Very heavy.
Here's your knowledge bringing to the table that I didn't know until I started to do this research. Nap Lajoie, the Cleveland great when they were the Cleveland Naps, used a double knob bat. It was called the shoulder. It had a thick ring above the knob. So picture the knob at the bottom and then another thick ring that went around. And that way he could put his hands in between for better bat placement wherever he wanted to knock the baseball.
Good for him.
Yeah, right? But I love the now axe bat, that anything that people can do. I don't know, Mick or Kevin, if you've seen players who have the hamate bone surgery or they break their hamate because of the repeated stress at the very bottom part of your hand, whatever is your bottom part on that knob constantly getting worn away. And so some guys, it costs them a year. Some guys, when they come back from it, it takes them some time to get their swing back.
Well, that's why you see more gloves these days, the big, thick gloves these days.
Yeah, exactly. So there's our baseball lingo term for the day. The barrel, the sweet spot, the label. Do you know the Hank Aaron, Yogi Berra story with the label?
No.
So Hank Aaron steps up to home plate. Milwaukee, New York, Yankees, Braves, 1957 World Series, the upstart Braves against the powerful Yankees. And the veteran Yogi Berra, to get in the youngster Henry Aaron's head, has gone, oh, wait, hey. You're holding the bat upside down. You got to hold it the other way. That way you can read the label. Just trying to get him to think. And Henry looks back at him and goes, didn't come here to read. So, there. That'll end this Ballpark Digest Broadcaster Chat. Mick Gillispie, any final thoughts?
No, guys, it was awesome talking, and hopefully we'll do it again next week and talk some more baseball. Always fun.
Kevin Reichard, final thoughts?
I'm gonna pitch my company, if that's okay, because we're in the midst of book release season. Jesse's book is we're proud of that. Never a Bad Game is out. Little reversed here, but that's okay. 50 plus years of the Southern League. It's been updated. Next week, the Arizona Spring Training Guy comes out. And the week after that, the Florida one. And we have something in the works that's going to involve Roger Maris, 1961, and the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Speaking of another good movie. So
Sounds good.
Yes. BallparkDigest.com, August publications, check it all out. For Kevin Reichard, from Mick Gillispie, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. Thank you very much for watching. This has been your Ballpark Digest Broadcaster Chat.